Living on Unama'ki, or Cape Breton Island, has been a gift of pure delight as my husband and I moved here to be closer to the dance and the music. What we had not anticipated was the incredible friendships in the music industry that would be enhanced by musicians from around the world that come to Cape Breton to play, perform, educate, and vacation. This goes for step dancers as well. My guest today spends half the year living just 2 doors over and the other half of the year in Virginia. She's one of 3 harpists that live within a kilometer of our home, and we are so truly blessed. Brenda Bowen Cox, my guest today, is a multi-instrumentalist who's been a therapeutic harpist since 1995 and received her certification in 1997 from the Music for Healing and Transition program. Currently, she provides therapeutic music at Hospice of the Piedmont. She also teaches harp at Blue Ridge Irish Music School and in her home studio. Sometimes that's her home studio from here. Brenda's published several works of her arrangements and compositions, and she's been supporting our Movement Made Easy class in the spring session with her incredible talents. Brenda's also offered our classes for Tai Chi, Tai Chi Cape Breton, the gifts of the harp music through the summer, and that can often match the music patterns in a way that is just mesmerizing. Her ability to get into the spine and release the knots and stiffness is amazing, and we always feel so lightened by the addition of the music. It's ethereal for sure. You're listening to Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, sponsored by the Cape Breton Tea Company and Dance Debut Inc. Please welcome harpist extraordinaire Brenda Bowen Cox. Hello, Brenda.
Hello. It's so nice to be here or
So I,
somewhere.
from somewhere. I know you're going to lead us in with some music so everyone can just relax. We hope that they put their cup of tea on, and I'm just going to be quiet.
Okay.
Ah, thank you.
You're
I can
welcome.
feel that. My body, I think, just because we've worked together for so long now, I can just feel it just climb right up my spine. It's just so lovely. Before we dive into the conversation and learn more about you and your work, let's set the intention for this session. And this provides the listeners with the opportunity to just think about what they want a little bit more of in their life and how this music may be able to help them get there. So I pulled a card from my Affirmations for the Body and Biofield deck. And the first card that came up was actually the instructions. And I'm just going to hold this up so people can see. It's like a burst of ray, but it's purple, white, and blue. And what happens when I get instruction cards is it usually tells me I'm supposed to move in a particular way. And so this one is about breathing, taking deep breaths, creating space. And then the second card I pulled is from the Fascia Spine Flow deck, and it's the note of D. When the soul embraces the body and the senses are in full awareness, the experience of life opens the gift of being human on earth, open to the fullness of living. Lumbar spine, sacred chakra. So for those people who are listening and can't see the card, It has some lines that run through it, which look like fascia, and it's yellow with a little bit of cream. And in one corner, it's got red and purple and orange. All right, so that sets us up for where we're heading. And what I'd like to do now is check in with you, Brenda, to see what you might have packed in your mug today for a tea.
Well, first of all, I'm using my wonderful Cape Breton mug. For those who can see it, I'm holding it up there, and it's made from Cape Breton clay. It has the outline of Cape Breton, like sort of like a map on it, and it contains the Rising Tides tea. Um, I actually I like all the teas. This is one of my favorites, um, but that's what's in here today.
And I didn't pay you to say that.
No.
I'm chuckling because when I set up the script for this podcast, I was going to choose Merry Moments, and this morning I went and picked Rising Tides, same as you, which I'm chuckling about. But obviously, the universe had already decided for us, and I also have mine in my Colton McDonnell mug, who is a musician extraordinaire, also on the island, fiddle and piano, but a great potter as well, besides what he does for his day job, which is helping people with chronic health issues. So, Brenda, thank you so much for joining me. And with Rising Tides from the Tea with Intention series, I send you a cheer across the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm, I love it. I love how we can connect. And mugs, you know what it does with friendship, right? It's just so much fun. All right, Brenda, let's dive into your story. Can you share what moved you into being a therapeutic musician over a beautiful harpist?
Well, this works really sort of came to me. I kind of grew up this way. My mother is a pianist, and I remember oftentimes when any of us kids were out of sorts or not feeling well or whatever, she would take time out of her busy day to play music for us. And I realized even then that it helped me feel better, or at least lifted my spirits. So it's didn't seem unusual to me to stumble upon a program where you could learn how to actually use music therapeutically. Um,
And so, were you playing in concerts? Do you belong to a group? Like, what were you doing beforehand as you were developing your career?
oh, okay. Well, I was doing a little bit of teaching, and I was performing with a couple of different ensembles, and, and oh, I was in a couple of little dance troupes. So it was, it's music has been around me all my life.
And it's not, it wasn't your profession. You actually had what we would call the day job, as many
Yes, I
musicians
did.
will say. You
Yes,
had a
I
different
did.
career prior to this. What were you doing then?
Yes. Well, I had a 32-year career of being a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. I taught deaf and hard of hearing kids of all exceptionalities from preschool through high school.
Wow. Wow. So, and then playing the harp was what you did on the side for your own enjoyment.
Hmm. Yeah, it was my other life, sort of my counterbalance, kept me sane.
And so, was it at the time of your retirement that you picked up the harp to play it more? Is that when you led to studying deeper, or?
Oh, well, no, I was actually still working. I think the idea of the fact that I was a special education teacher. Um, I've always been sort of aware of people with exceptionalities or with ailments or any kind of thing like that, and I just naturally kind of tend to want to help with those types of things.
And so you had the harp. Did you take the harp into the classroom with you?
I did on occasion. Actually, back then I wasn't doing so much with harp. In the classroom, I found the dulcimer actually to be more helpful. It's definitely more portable and it has actually has quite a bit of surface area as well, so the kids could put their fingers on it and hear when I say hear, feel the vibrations. Some of them had some partial hearing, and a couple of them even learned to strum some tunes. I would figure them out numerically for the kids and write it on the board, and then they could play. So it was just something to give them some more fluency, especially with their speech and their vocalizations.
Right, right. Now, you talked about the difference between being a therapeutic harpist and a music therapist. Do you want to explain to our audience what that means?
Yes, they are two very different things, but they do work hand in hand. Music therapists, they use music to address physical or emotional or cognitive or social needs of individuals. Um, Music therapy um, improves the quality of life for persons who are well and those who can also meet the needs of children and adults with disabilities or illnesses. The emphasis is on behavioral or rehabilitative changes, um, and it assumes a relationship between the therapist and the person being having an active participation. Um, the difference with a therapeutic musician, a therapeutic musician is an artist uh, who uses artistic application of the intrinsic elements of live music and sound to create or provide um, an environment conducive to the human healing process. It does not require active participation from the recipient.
Beautiful. So it's interesting for people to be able to note um, where the self empowerment comes in. And I'm always fascinated by this because our medical model is set up for us to have a clinician. And so we empower these people with our well being because of their knowledge, which is vast knowledge. But at the same time, we almost forgot that we have this innate ability to heal and that we have the power to engage it. And so when you move yourself out of that therapist kind of situation, your everyday activities allow you to transform by what you choose to do. Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
It is, yes. Well, in the words of one of the co-founders of the Music for Healing and Transition program, Lori Riley, um, she taught us that this is well known and documented that music has been used for millennia, formally and informally, to change, create, or enhance moods and to help relieve suffering. Um, common usage of the term therapeutic musician usually refers to acoustic music played or sung live. And of course, we use it in a variety of healthcare settings. Um, so yeah, so and our focus is on meeting a patient's present needs with therapeutic music in the moment, rather than having an intention of accomplishing a specific goal or outcome as a music therapy. So yes,
Yes.
to support everything you say, I think that's exactly it. We're just using the intrinsic healing elements of live music and intentionality to create an environment that's conducive to healing.
And so when I opened today with the card deck, I know for people that aren't familiar with music and frequency and tones, um, so we have six healing sounds in Tai Chi. So we have vocalizations we can make. And the card that I chose today was the note of D. And I know when you've played for the Tai Chi group, you might start with a certain note and work around it or in that key So the notes that are familiar to that key, but then you start to play from there and pull the music. And that's that opportunity for the listener to be empowered by what that music can invoke, and the way that if people choose that they want to be in a transformation process while they're listening to music, they can make that choice, and the innate healing potential is immediately engaged. It is engaged just because you're listening to the music, but of course, if you add intention, that has the opportunity to magnify. And I know you as the beautiful player that you are, you're so intuitive to the nuances of what's going on in the room and the people to be able to pick up where you need to go with the music. Um, I know that's a little bit harder to talk about, but do you want to maybe just talk about kind of how the music pulls you? Because you sometimes start with the tune and then you transition over to more intuitive playing, and it's such a skill.
Well, yeah, it is hard to describe. It's really about uh, being in the here and now, and just like you say, tuning in uh, to the reading the room. That is something that we are taught in our training. Um, so um, it's just something that kind of develops with experience, really.
Hmm. And then I know, just from our conversations after Tai Chi class, that you started with a certain sequence of progressions. Do you want to just talk about what progressions are and how they work?
Um, Yeah, let's see here. I did make some notes about that, and I'm trying to figure out where we are in that in that realm of, of
Well, I'm not
notes.
going by the
Um,
script. I'm thinking about your skill level, and I'm just thinking intuitively
right,
about how you
right,
play, and then how sometimes you have those choices that you kind of make where you want to start.
right. Well, for Tai Chi, I have found that there are certain rhythms and styles of music that work better than others. I try to mimic the movements that the participants are doing and attempt to create an auditory space where they can flow and move more freely. Um, and most of the time, I am improvising because I have to keep with the flow. Um, for other situations, I can play actual compositions. Um, but it's you know as I said, I was, when I say reading the room, but you have to listen to the acoustics of the room as well. I mean, I know that when we're in the different locations, there are things that work better in some locations than others, and so it's really um, kind of a whole package kind of a thing.
It's not just learning how to strum some notes on some strings. It's really,
Oh no,
yeah, you
no.
really have to be able to let go and just be with the music and listen to what the music is guiding for, which is the same with as the listener being able to take that frequency in and allow it to be a part of who we are and support the movements that we're doing or the mood that we want to be in as well. Because
Mhm.
very often people will pick up the music because they want to transform maybe some sadness, or they want to they're happy, so they want to have some joyous music come on, or they have a need to be creative, so they're thinking about what kind of music allows them to do that, and so we pull it in so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and because everybody's goal is different, as I said, I have to create the space and not one specific goal. As a music therapist would do, you have to, you hone in on one thing, and in this realm, I'm making basically an auditory room where all these people can fit in and take care of their personal goals.
Wow. It's so empowering. It's so wonderful. Um, okay, so the training that you undergo to learn this is, you noted, is quite rigorous. Do you want to talk about a few details that for those people that think this might be a route they want to go down?
Well, sure. I mean, I can speak from my training program, the Music for Healing and Transition program, and their mission is to train and certify musicians in the art and science of providing therapeutic music for body, mind, and spirit. Um, we go through 5 modules, um, which let's see, I made a list so that I wouldn't forget what they were. um, and then I can't find it. Okay, but we have modules 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are 15 hours. And then module 5, which is 20 hours. The module 1 classes are patient assessment and injury prevention. Module 2 is music as a language. Module 3 is music, sound, and healing, and paradigms of healing. Um, and then we go to module 5, sorry about that, as where we do our practicum, and we have some final course classes, care of the dying, alterations in health, and of course, as I mentioned, the clinical practicum. Um, did I mention? I think I mentioned module 4, which is hospital etiquette and independent practicum, and you study a little bit about the business aspect of it. It's called profession of music practitioner. So it's music practitioner, or a certified music practitioner, CMP is what our graduates are called. Um, really, and you don't. There are certainly other programs, and they're all good. It just kind of depends on what your research is and how where your mind, what your philosophy is and which one you choose, and how you approach it. The main thing is to watch for to make sure that the program that you choose is accredited by the National Standards Board of Therapeutic Musicians, and you can look on their website to find out which ones are. It's NSBTM, National Standards Board of Therapeutic Musicians.org. And of course, I should say that MHTP.org is the program that I came from.
Perfect. Perfect. So let's talk a little bit about some of your experiences. And I know you've played for children. Do you want to talk about what happens when that harp comes out for the kids?
Oh, yeah, wow. It's almost can't even be put into words. I do have, a couple of quotes specifically from parents of children, that I've pulled from in the past. One said, and I quote, "It had a calming effect, which helped her to sleep peacefully." Um, Sometimes that's all they need, at the time. If they're crying uncontrollably, or if they're just so out of sorts that they can't function, then if you can put them to sleep, that's such a good thing. Another mom said, "I notice most the caring of the harpist and the appropriate music." And I can't claim that that was directed only at me, because in that situation we had a couple of different people participating in the music program there. Um, Playing My favorite place is the NICU, the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, where the babies there, of course, they can't tell you how they feel or what they want, but the nurses were always so kind to me there. It's, you can help put the babies to sleep, or you can just soothe them so that they can get into the rhythm of learning to eat. A lot of them don't have um, that innate ability yet, because they're too young, they're too premature, and so um, you can assist with all kinds of things in there, to just with rhythmic passages and soothing, calming passages.
Wow, I never thought about the sucking reflex responding to
Mm-hmm.
music. That
Mm-hmm.
is amazing. So if there's any moms out there that are listening,
Mm-hmm.
what music can do for that. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Um, okay, do you want to talk a little bit about your work with, I'm going to the other end, that's neonatal. We go to
Mhm.
palliative care and hospice work, some of your stories
Yes.
from there.
Um, yeah, yeah, I love doing both ends of the spectrum actually. It sort of keeps me in balance. I've learned so much about living from being around those who are dying. Um, it's just absolutely amazing. The most gratifying thing that I get out of this is knowing that these people have allowed me to come into this very, very personal space at a very, very poignant and sacred time of their life, when they're making that transition. Um, so it's very much an honor. Um, Sometimes that they're not responsive. Many times they're not responsive, but you can just kind of watch the breathing patterns, and watch for any kind of movement anywhere, particularly sometimes in the face, sometimes fingers or toes will move. And it's just such a gratifying thing. And then I have a few quotes from people from hospice. It said it was calming and helped to make the pain go away for a while. Um, Oh, and here's one. This person was so poetic. What I noticed most was the way the sound caresses the air and makes you forget where you are. And I said, oh, that is, you know, the music calmed mother to sleep. She has difficulty talking, but smiled when the music was played. Um, Another said, I noticed how peaceful I felt. So, there's kind of a common thread here, the peace, the calm. And of course, that's always my intent when I play for anybody is to spread peace and calm.
Hmm. Hmm. And then that opportunity for people to take a deeper breath, and that deeper breath allows for that tension to be released, which means that the pain, even though they may have a lot of pain, that pain actually can lessen, or
Mhm.
become less dominant in their mind and experience because they've been transported somewhere else. Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful gift to be able to share. So since you transferred from being a harpist, and I do know you still put on concerts and play with, you've got the friends that you play with. What
Mhm.
have you noticed about your life as a result of moving into this kind of work with the music?
Well, my continual path, as I call it, or um, journey, um, is in meeting all these incredible people that I play for. In hospice, it's such an honor to play for them, and as I mentioned, to think that they allow me into this special part of their lives. In other settings, like Movement Made Easy or Tai Chi, or anything else, it's about being in the moment and being in sync with those who are present. Um, those are the things you can't really plan exactly. It seems that you just have to be there and be present and respond in that way to it. It's all very enriching and at the same time very humbling, and it really fills me with gratitude um, to be able to do that.
That's it. Just is so interesting, right? You pick up an instrument, or for me, it's dancing, and the gifts that come back, they're just so amazing. And so for those people that are struggling with practicing to try to, get into the flow of whatever craft or art they're trying to achieve, just to know the gifts on the other end of that are just so beautiful when you let go of the struggle of the learning.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Now, I was just thinking about when you and I took the plant machine, my music of the plants synthesizer, and
Mhm.
I thought this might be a nice time to just talk a little bit about it, because as a musician and an intuitive musician, your ability to exchange with a plant was just such such a joyous time, and I giggle about it when I get to tell the story. But so for the listeners to know, I have a little machine. It's a synthesizer, and I can hook it up to a plant. I hook it up to either the flowers or the leaves, as well as into the dirt, into the roots. And it takes the frequency within the plant and brings that into the synthesizer. And for Tai Chi class, for many years at the Belcote Hall, we had this lovely tree that sang for us every week. And Brenda, you came in the one week to play, and we hooked up the plant like we usually do. And then it took about 5 minutes before the two of you, this sounds crazy, I know, but before the plant and you found some way to harmonize, to come into the same key and the same flow. Do you want to just share that experience a little bit?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that for a while. um, yeah, I was very tentative at first because, of course, I'd never played, directed my playing at a plant. I mean, I've been aware of plants being around me when I've played, um, and so it was more like a call and response at first. I would do a little bit of something and wait to see if the plant responded. Um, and then when we got into a pattern, we could just sort of flow along together. Um, I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, and I hadn't had any kind of
I'm not sure the
training
plant
for
did
that,
either.
so it was all very experimental, but quite fun, and really interesting. It's just, who knew?
And from the participant side of it, we were doing a Tai Chi set. And so the first 5 minutes, it was like, oh, that doesn't sound so good because each of you was kind of in a different key. And then all of a sudden, it gelled. And then we couldn't tell the difference between you or the plant because it just completely became a melded piece.
I had forgotten. Yes, you're right. Well, we are taught in our training about entrainment, which is you go in, and of course you don't know where. And I'm going to talk on the side of like a patient rather than a plan at the moment, but you'll see where it ties together. Um, and of course, you don't really have much to go on when you just walk into a room. And so you start and you kind of, so you're searching for tones that they seem to respond to, and then you find that and you kind of hone in on that. um, and then you meet the patient at their level. You meet them where they are. If they're agitated, your music's going to be a little more agitated, and then you get them, you meet them right where they are, and then you begin to gradually work them into something more calm. Just slow, either like you're trying to slow down the heart rate, or you're trying to get them to breathe more deeply. So you begin this entrainment. So um, maybe without even realizing that I was doing that, I was probably using entrainment on the plant, or maybe it was using it on me, so that we could jive.
Yeah, yeah. I just remember finishing the set, and all of us, there was, I don't know, 15, 20 of us in the room, and we all turned around and we just, our jaws were on the floor because it was like, wow, that
What
was
happened?
just so spectacular that it just harmonized. Um, and then from that experience, you and I came back home and we got three plants out and we put them in the studio and set up the harp and thought, well, let's see, because if the plant responded to you playing with it like it did, what, are all plants the same? And so I just chuckle all the time because I still have the same geranium plants, but we had two different geraniums, and I think the third one was a fern or something.
I think so, yeah.
And so I don't know if you remember the personalities of each plant. Do you remember? Yeah, I'll let you tell it because it's so interesting.
Well, they are all different. And gosh, I don't, you have to help me remember all this.
So the
Because
one
I remember,
geranium you started, and it liked a series of progressions that you had chosen, and it
mhm,
wanted to go slow. And so you kind of had to slow down what you were doing and stay in that slow state. And then when we changed over to the other geranium, it didn't like that at all, and it would hit notes that were sharps and flats compared to what you were trying to play, and it just was totally a disharmony until
yeah.
you sped up. And then when you sped up, it was happier, and so it just joined in with what you were doing.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'd forgotten all about that because I do remember that of the three, somebody was really different, and I didn't remember who.
Yeah, yeah,
I say somebody, you know what I mean. But yeah, so that just goes to show you,
yeah.
um, I mean, you can create that space, but you have to give the space too. I mean, you have to work with it. It doesn't just um, descend upon you and magically be there.
And then there's that, and the reason I brought it up is because I think sometimes we think that the music always has to be from what we hear. And the
Mhm.
thing about therapeutic harp is, yes, you're hearing it, but it's that resonance that's coming into the system that allows the spine to release, and it allows the organs to slow down, or the breath to go deeper, or the mind to calm. And you can hear that music, but it also is reverberating through. And so the plants have their own voice and their own song. We just can't hear it.
Mhm.
And you had this amazing ability to be able to listen and follow and then transform it. And from a therapeutic harpist perspective, the gift that's allowed you to have those kinds of experiences.
Well, I'm glad you reminded me of that because, a lot of times I'll go into a room at hospice to play for somebody and a family member is there and they'll say, oh, well, his hearing is really so bad, he's not going to hear anything. And I have to remind them that the cells, all of your cells will respond to the vibration, whether you're hearing the music or not. So it makes that makes perfect sense to
Mhm.
yeah to
And
remember that cells respond to sound waves basically. I mean the basics of it.
yeah, and at that innate, those innate reflexes in the body too, because you were talking about how fingers and toes will move. And I know that anybody who's been a dancer, if if someone goes in to play music for them, you'll see their body try to respond to the
Yeah.
music in a way that they innately have embodied in their lifetime. Yeah, yeah. So, do they need to be able to hear you? Not necessarily. They need to be able to experience you, and that's the key. Yeah. Oh, Brenda, we've had so much fun with the music over the years and being able to play, and I know you've got incredible talents. Do you want to talk a little bit about your compositions and books for those people that might be interested in what you have produced?
Well, yeah. I've written a few books and several sheet music um, arrangements and compositions. They're available in most harp music shops, or for me personally. Um, I don't I don't do a lot of advertising or searching out for things. Most of the work that I do seems to come to me, so I don't really have to go out there and get it. Um, so if anybody is interested, I guess the first contact is to just find me on Facebook or my email or whatever, um, and or you
And your
can.
email, Brenda, what is it?
Well, the one that I would use for that is BB, my initials BB musician at Gmail.
Perfect.
And I'm there on Facebook. Um,
And then if, like for the titles of some of the books,
okay.
do you want to just say what a couple of the titles would be so they know what they're looking for?
Sure, sure. The A Peaceful Harbor is the my most recent book, and it is the one that has the therapeutic music in it. It was actually I designed it um, so that you could go in and play a long session from the front of the book to the back of the book for a patient. Just I arranged the pieces so that they would flow from one into the next. Also in the key signatures that follow the circle of fifths, because that's just my protocol. That's not something they necessarily taught us at school, but that's what I use because
Okay.
mathematically it fits, and it just works for me, and I think it creates a nice flow. So anyway, that book is designed that way. For those who are more interested in dance music and the music of Cape Breton, I arranged two books full of tunes. The first one was called A Cape Breton Bouquet. The second one is called Another Bouquet. And then I have several different sheet musics, a couple of my own compositions. One was a hymn that a nurse in the NICU had requested many years ago, and um, no, not a, it was the doctor. Anyway, just a smattering of different things. One of my best sellers is the good old Satchmo piece called "What a Wonderful World." Um, I just love that one too.
And you say it so calmly and quietly. Well, I just created these books, but I've written books, but that's like words. You've made a composition. You've been able to write it all out and bring that to print. And I just think that is the most extraordinary gift that you've been able to offer. So, for those people that are listening, even to the idea of the progressions and the way that the music's going to be played in the latest book that you produced, for those people that are coming into therapeutic kinds of settings or intuitively playing, you've figured out, like you said, the mathematics. And I know you calmly said it, but I just want to point out the incredible gift that you're offering by having put these books together and taking your experience and sharing it with the world. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'm in awe of all the things you do. I just, this is what I know and what I can do, so I just do it. But then I look at somebody like you who's written these other books, and I think, if I were given that task, I would probably just crumble.
It's funny, isn't it? What's easy for one and not easy for another. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes our village.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, before we close today, I always like to ask people about a favorite movement they might have. But instead, today, how about if you play us a little something music wise? And I would invite those people who are listening to think about whether they want to toe tap, they just want to get up and dance in the kitchen, or they can sit back from their desk or wherever they happen to be listening and just enjoy the music.
Okay. I had planned to play something else, but since I just mentioned the Satchmo piece, I'm going to try that. I haven't played it in a while, so I don't know what will come out, but we'll see.
All right.
Well, no, it won't come out right. See, there it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I was thinking about, you said, well, I haven't played it for a while, which is how musicians go. I haven't done that for a while. And then once those first couple notes kind of go past, and then you're in it. The memory is there and it carries you. Yeah, beautiful. Is there anything you want to add before we close today?
I can't think of anything, but it's just, thank you so much for asking me to do this. I hadn't ever done a podcast before, so I'm always up for learning, and I'm so glad that you kind of guide me along and show me new things to do and new pathways all the time. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining me. I am delighted for this season to be doing how people transform and what the transformation process looks like. And I'm hoping that by shedding the light on these different conversations, we invite people to think it can be different and what they really want to go for is possible. Because just as you and I were saying, what's easy for one may not be so easy for the other, but when you work collaboratively together, amazing things happen. And you and I have been examples of that in the fun that we've had sharing our skills. So, yeah, thank you so much, Brenda.
Thank you.
Brenda and I are on Movement Made Easy Wednesdays at noon. And so if that's something that you think you'd like to enjoy, some movement with some harp music, that's on eventbrite.ca. You can register. Those people who are coming in partway through this session, they're all recorded, so you have access to them and you can go back to them, which is great. And we'll be starting into the next session shortly, which I'm excited to see where that takes us. In closing, Season 3, we're devoting to the transformational process that happens when people reach into their authentic selves and create magic. And our season has several publications this year, and we hope they inspire and empower you to consider living your true heart's desire with the love and compassion for others at the forefront. Thank you for joining us. This is Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, wishing you well-being.